So apparently they discovered a Earth-sized planet orbiting the closest star to the sun. They call it Proxima b, I think is what it's called. It's just amazing what we don't know. So the closest star to the sun has its own Earth essentially orbiting it. It's only 4.2 light years, I think is what the guy said, what the article said, 4.2 light years away. I mean, it's insane, man. This is incredible. And they're saying that even though it's the same size as Earth, apparently there's like it gets 20% more energy from that star than we get from the sun or something like that. So the idea is it could have water on it. If it has water on it, it probably has got life. It's crazy. It's wonderful. I mean, jeez, man. So many things when I read that just come to mind about the possibilities that are just out there. They're truly endless. But also on top of that, the arrogance of Stephen Hawking and these guys who act as if they know how everything starts. I mean, the arrogance of one small human being on Earth with his computer models. It's just mind-boggling, man. Stephen Hawking is smarter than the universe, essentially. It's, and of course, I've listened to Aaron Weinstein, and he says he's a good physicist, but he's certainly not the best physicist ever known to man. Now, that guy's dead now, Stephen Hawking. Yeah, I think even Hawking acknowledged that. He said if he wasn't in a wheelchair, people probably wouldn't know of him. It's just, can you imagine? An Earth-like planet, potentially, is the size of the Earth, roughly, orbiting the closest star to the sun, getting 20% more, or 20 times, I can't remember what the whole story was. If I remember, I'll put a link to the show notes. I find it incredible. And I find it incredible that, we got no idea what's out there. None whatsoever. None. Which I think is freaking incredibly awesome. I do. And this is why you don't have to be anti-religious to be in science. Because you're saying God gave us the brain to discover God's creation. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. And you're going to use the brain for which God gave you to try to figure out as best as you can while you're on this earth what God's creation is about. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not anti-science or bringing religion into science. It's crazy that people say you can't be religious and bring it to science because then you're looking at the supernatural. Like, why would you not? Why would you not look at all possibilities? And then even worse, why would you say there is no God? Or just, I don't even care what you say. Why would you say we know about climate change? Or how could you possibly say that? I literally sit there and say, how can you possibly be so arrogant to say this is what the past was, and thus this is what the future will be, when you don't know what the past was? You can estimate and guesstimate and hypothesize, but you don't know. You weren't there. You have some models, but it's just still all theory, which is cool. But then to extrapolate that, and this is where the climate change people are just insane, they basically start, it depends on what they want to show. They'll start in 1979 at the lowest low of the global cooling of the 60s and 70s, so that's easy to show. Oh my goodness, look at global warming. Or they'll start in 1880, which is the beginning of the industrial age, essentially. Maybe 1850, it doesn't matter. They'll say record heat, right? Maybe for 100 years, but obviously, then you got to say how you using your thermometers, how you measuring. It's just there's so many how. It's crazy. All right, so anyway, they'll say record heat, and you say, okay, record what regard? Well, it's the highest ever recorded. Okay, how long have we been recording? 30 years? 130 years? How are you recording it? We're taking a temperature today that's off the airport asphalt, all right, or off the an asphalt industrial park with a bunch of air conditioning units spewing out heat. And then we're using that combined with a temperature that we use in northern Minnesota, something like that 100 years ago. Yeah, it's not truly a record now, is it? Because the world has been around for potentially billions of years, so we just don't know, do we? Well, under observed temperatures, okay, well, observed temperatures is basically 2 lives, essentially. You can say 80 years, and even that you still have to challenge. So observed temperatures is different than historical record temperatures because we just don't know. But we do know things like the Little Ice Age. Oh, okay, that's a weird place to poop. The Little Ice Age, the Medieval Warm Period. We don't know exactly, A, what caused those, or B, how the temperatures were, but we know for a fact there were, well, I guess a fact. We can make a pretty safe assumption that those things happen, and we can then extrapolate that to say, why did those things happen? All right? And then we have to theorize about those things and what would cause them to happen again. But be it as it may, we don't know everything. It's crazy. We're just making assumptions. All these scientists out there who claim like we have proven the X, Y, Z, I'm like, you haven't proven anything. It's just weird to me, man. Like this need to know everything and have no level of curiosity other than I need to prove that I am right and everybody else is wrong. And I'm going to say something just to get my name out there that this will happen. Why? Because my computer models show it. I'm like, this is why I just hate these rabble-rousing people who say the science shows this. You're like, no, it doesn't. Your science, which is just a hypothesis, shows it. Somebody else's doesn't show it. Why are we using your science at the expense of the other science? It just doesn't make sense. And then we discover things all the time that just shows you the silliness of saying it is undebatable and proven, and everyone who opposes needs to be shut up. That's why I'm against all this crap on climate change, on wearing a mask, on all this. Because we discover stuff we don't know all the time. And then we say, in hindsight, ooh, what were we thinking? I just think it's cool, man. I've always thought the study of space is phenomenally fantastic. Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, you just look up there, you can't see much of that's the sky. And just, this is why I always love living on an island, too, and on the water, because you just look over the water. When I was growing up on Peaks Island in Maine, I take my dog Doggy down. I've always been a morning person, so we go down early in the morning, kind of like it is now, a little bit before there was any activity, before the first boat came, and we just sit there and look over the Atlantic Ocean, looking towards the east, and knowing that I guess it was England or something like that on the other side, Ireland, and just wonder like there's somebody sitting right now on the other side of this ocean doing something. What is that guy or lady doing? I've always been intrigued by that. There's something happening up there right now. I don't know what's happening up there. And how far does it go? You know what I'm saying? Isn't that just interesting? And people say the end of the universe. Well, what's on the other side of the end of the universe? I've always wondered that. The universe is expanding. It's expanding into what exactly? The universe is shrinking. What's on the other side of the shrinking universe? Now, these are things that always intrigue me. They got the multiverse theory, which, in itself sounds silly to me, but, I'll entertain that. I'll entertain anything, man. But it doesn't mean you prove it. Kind of like I can't prove God exists, and you can't prove God doesn't exist. I can't prove a negative, but you can't prove that you just sit there in your grave either when you die. You can't. You can't prove that. So let's agree we can't prove much and keep looking. Makes it fun. Makes it But don't freaking, just because you don't like a guy's politics or his religion, just stifle that guy who's doing much needed research. This is what scared me, and Eisenhower warned of this. If you don't follow the mob, you're not going to get funding, you're not going to get peer reviewed, you're not going to get any credence in mainstream science or mainstream economics or whatever it is, mainstream art. And because of that, you're going to have to find your own money, do your own research, and you'll never be thrown in with the cool kids, which means we're stifling so much thought. It's frustrating me. And the discoveries that we might come up with if we just allow a little bit more diversity. Let's have diversity of thought. Let's try that one time. All right, we'll see you.